Hey, what's up, fam? Thank y'all for tuning in once again. As always, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Hey, let's talk about paternity fraud. I'm quite sure a lot of us know somebody. Well, let's just say, I'm quite sure a lot of us know a woman who has claimed that a certain male was a father of her child, knowing doggone well that is not the case. I can tell you, I've already told a story in one of my previous videos about the situation. And I also know of another young lady years ago who purposely did the same thing. I think I did a story about that person 2 years ago, a while back. And that child looked just like the guy that we knew who was the father, but the mother tried to put him off on somebody else, and I think it had something to do with financial issues. But anyway, let's get into this story because Tennessee. So my question is, should paternity fraud be illegal? Should it be a crime? I say yes, and it looks like the state of Tennessee feels the same way because according to Fox13Memphis.com, their story reads, Tennessee bill would make it illegal to falsely accuse someone of being the baby's father. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. But let's get into the article and deep dive on this just a little bit more. It says, a bill introduced to the Tennessee General Assembly would make it a crime to falsely accuse someone of being a child's parent. The bill was originally introduced into the legislature by Antonio Parkinson from Memphis, who represents part of Shelby County. Parkinson introduced it to the Tennessee House on January 18th, and Senator John Lundberg of Bristol, Tennessee, brought it to the state Senate on January 23rd. The bill, known as HB 0253 and SB 0331, passed the state Senate unanimously on March the 20th. The bill will make it a misdemeanor when a person commits parentage fraud. And I want to look and see what a misdemeanor is and what that entails, but we'll look for that shortly. Parentage fraud, as defined in the bill, occurs when a person seeks to legally establish the individual as a biological parent of a child in the person's custody with the intent to deprive that person of property or to prevent the child's actual biological parent from exercising parental rights to the child. Now, with all that legal terminology, this is saying women who defraud men from knowing who the real father is. Because, come on now, we already know who the mother is, right? So we can't but then there might be some cases where, who knows, babies get switched, babies get stolen, things of that nature. And in the future, once that baby looks for the parent and come to find out, the parent looks for the baby, finds a child, but then the new parents, fight for custody and say it's not the parent, blah, blah, blah. But all that could be rectified with a DNA test. So really, this is just a bill about going, these no count women trying to trap these dudes. Because you sit here and you have, you want to be with a certain guy, whether he touches the woman's soul emotionally and or physically, but yet he's not a good provider. He has other children, most likely. Either doesn't have a job, can't keep a job, or doesn't have a great job. But the guy over here, the boring guy, the straight-laced, the L7, the square dude, he's over here, going to school, working his butt off, trying to make something for himself and for you and for a future family. But he's not enough. He's not good enough for to fulfill your needs at that point. So you step out and go with something that seems a little more exciting, because this other guy shows you attention, shows you time, shows you all these emotions and the other guy doesn't, but not really realizing the reason why he can do that because he got all the time in the world. And he probably has a lot of practice with other females and his other baby mamas. So he's really good at, pretty much, using the gift of gab to get what he wants from you. Well, this guy, he's, book smart, family, straight laced, the best option for you. But anyway, it's under the bill, parentage fraud could also be when someone seeks to be legally established as a child's parent and the person knows or should reasonably know what they are. Reasonably know that they are not the child's biological parent. So, with that being said, that's saying that, let's say a parent, like a dad, might want to say, "Hey, that's my son," but no one is not. Ain't nobody gonna do that. Ain't no dude gonna do no mess with that. But you got to cover all your bases, when it comes to the law. So, there are exceptions laid down in the bill, which can be read here. And we click on this. Let's see. It said House Bill 253 by Parkinson, an act to amend Tennessee's code and annotated Title 36 and Title 39 relative to parentage fraud. It says, whereas a parent has a fundamental right to be involved in the lives of the parent's children. Basically saying you got the right, got the ethical and moral right to be part of your child, and you should want to be. Every man, every woman should want to be a part of their child's life. That's why I can't really kick it with deadbeat dads, because come on, man, your kid shouldn't be out here alone trying to fend for themselves with a mom that's probably trying to work 2-3 jobs, if working at all, and either choose not to or don't have the time to really raise and rear that child like they need to be. Whereas a child should know the identity of a child's parent for many reasons, including but not limited to allowing the child to learn about the family's medical history. And yes, especially in the Black community, you got people with sickle cell, heart disease, blood pressure, diabetes, stuff like that. Some things that can, heart disease, like I said, diabetes and sickle cell are things that can be passed down for generations. And I mean, it's only right for the child to know if that's could be a part of the future, lupus, things like that. Child need to know if there's a possibility that they can catch it, or if they have issues. They need to know, like, hey, my parents, my grandparents, they've had these. This runs in the family, so we can cut down on a lot of wasted time to get treatment for the child. So the child can have the best possible life. Let's see, medical history and benefiting from inheritance laws now thereof. Because again, like in one of the stories that I told you about, when the young lady found out like who her dad was, found out that her dad was really her dad. His family had some wealth in farming, but she didn't want to get into that. She wasn't even trying to get none of that because she hadn't known the dude for all this time. So she just wanted to know who her dad was, blah, 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 who her family is. If they was willing to reach out to her or not, that's it. So, but I'm just saying, you look at she was looking like Tupac, just did a story on his dad with Billy Garland. Tupac, for the longest thought his dad was dead. Matter of fact, when I was looking up that dude on Google, it said he had died in 1999. So you see how the story was out, story told by his mother, by Tupac's mother, the lies that were told about this man, and this man pretty much missed out on being a part of Tupac's estate. Well, hell, all of Tupac's estate, so now somebody else is controlling it, and like he said, somebody else controlling it, so this is why you can sell LBGTQ LMNOP merchandise on the man's site, and doggone well, he wouldn't approve of that. And if anybody want to say that Afeni Shakur had, I don't know, was she, a lesbian? I don't know. No, toward the end of her life, I don't know. But even if she was, it had nothing to do with her son's image. So don't even go there. Anyway, let me continue. Being enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, Section 1, Tennessee Code, annotated Title 39, Chapter 14, Part 1, is amended by adding the following as a new section. A, A person commits parentage fraud who seeks to legally establish the individual as a biological parent of a child in the parent's custody with the intent to deprive the individual of property or to prevent the child's actual biological parent from exercising parental rights to the child, and the person knows or reasonably should know that the individual is not the child's biological parent. That's an interesting paragraph because it's funny, like in the courts, when you go to child support court, they could care less if you see that child, but they're gonna make you pay child support, even if you are not abusive, even if you are a good parent, a good person. They are going, if the mom can come up with some elaborate story as to why you should not see the child, then the courts could deem that you not see the child, but you're gonna pay that child support. They don't care. They can put all kind of orders in, like you see them every other week, on Thursday, throughout the summers, every other holiday. They can put all that in there. They're not even gonna care. They're not gonna go out their way to see if those dates, are being adhered to. The only thing they're gonna worry about is, are you paying child support? And if you're not, they will come after you. But let's say if this is your Thursday and you don't pick your child this Thursday, they're not gonna come after you and say, hey man, you're in contempt because you're not seeing your child Thursday. How I know? Because that happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Like me and my child's mother, we had an agreement, but it's a court order agreement, some bullshit. But it's a court order agreement about every other weekend. That's what they try to put in. But that's one thing me and the mother got to agree with. Like, hey, Mark can see his child whenever he wants to, because that's what he does. He sees his child. He has his child whenever he wants. That's what you had to end up agreeing to. But the courts wasn't trying to hear that. Anyway, long story. Raise my blood pressure back up. 2, seeks to be legally established as a child's parent based on the person's status as a biological parent of the child, and the person knows or reasonably should know that the person is not the biological person. So basically, let's give you an example, which is where this kind of words me. The mother could easily say, I didn't know he was a parent, or I didn't know that he was not the father. And of course it'd be like, well, how you didn't know? Well, because, I was messing around with him at the same time I was with him. So I didn't know who the dad. I was messing around with this guy and this guy around about the same time. Broke up with this guy on Friday, met this guy on Saturday, and had relations with him on Sunday, but just had relations with this guy on Thursday. They can come up with any kind of story, especially if they got one of them good lawyers that the courts give them. They come up with any kind of story to say they didn't know. So this is going to be upon the courts and upon whichever fake dad or real dad who's in court, trying to determine this fraud, to see if it's legal, see if it's fraud, so it can be whether it's legitimate fraud or not. It's going to be up to them to prove that she knew. Intent, and that's one thing they say is hard to do, almost impossible to do in court. In a lot of cases, is to prove intent, unless there's like evidence building up to it. Like if it's like a murder, if they see like a history of buying guns, posting online, making threats, this and the third, phone calls being made, stalking, stuff like that. Then if some kind of crime happens to a victim, they can prove intent. But if it's just like driving down the street, you bump my car on accident, now we're getting out fighting, and then someone ends up injured, there's no intent. There was no malicious intent like in the past. So now you got to prove that this woman, intentionally defrauded. Even if the child looks just like this other guy, you still got to prove intent. Because think about it. If a woman is pregnant, let's say she don't know who the father is, and she's hoping, because a lot of them, they hope that square guy is a father, and not that thug guy is a father, because they know that this Pookie and Ray Ray or whoever is no count dude. He ain't no good. He ain't no good to the other kids. He ain't gonna be no good. He's fun to be with, but to have a child is, out the question. So hopefully this guy, you see, so like I say, it's about proving intent. That's hard to do. It say B, parentage fraud is a class A misdemeanor. You know what? Before I move on, let's look. Class A misdemeanor. Misdemeanor. No. Tennessee. Let's see. Class A misdemeanor are the most serious types of misdemeanor. This is in Tennessee. If convicted, you can face jail time of up to 11 months and 29 days. Fines of up to $2,500 or both. So that's a misdemeanor in Texas. So basically, for you trying to defraud a man out of at least 20 to 30% of his pay for the next 18 years and or beyond. If the kid goes to college or this and the 30, you're still responsible for insurance, whatever. But for 18 years, you can take a third, like I said, from 25% to a third of this man's income. And just, keep him poor, keep him from being able to, accumulate wealth, make it harder for him to do it, make him have to go out and get 2 jobs just to pay child support and to pay his bill because inflation is a trip right now. Only thing you're going to get, which most women probably not going to get, is 11 months, a little less than 1 year in jail and $2,500 fine. I don't think the trade-off is even remotely equal. Okay, then it says C, subsection A does not apply when the child involved was conceived as a result of an act that will be aggravated, people say against rape, as defined in subsection 39-13-502, grape as defined in subsection 39-13-503, grape of a child as defined in subsection 39-13-522, especially aggravated grape as defined in subsection 39-13-534, or especially aggravated grape of a child as defined in subsection 39-13-535. So basically, if the woman is, or a child, if a child is conceived due to, like what they said, then no, you can sit there. Well, basically, yeah, you can pretty much say, no, I ain't the parent, and I'm not going to acknowledge you as a dad. And they can be like, well, I'm dad. No, we're not going to acknowledge you with that. So forget that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's too much trauma. You know what I'm saying? If the mother decides to keep child, it's going to be too much trauma for the mother and eventually the child. 2, the child involved has been or is in the process of being adopted. Or 3, the victim of the offense was a defendant's spouse at the time of the offense. What? The victim of the offense was the defendant's spouse at the time of the offense. So basically, if the woman claims that the husband assaulted her, so you can get charged with that being married. Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought you couldn't anyway, that's interesting. Okay, anyway, Section 2, this act takes effect July 1st, 2023, the public welfare requiring it. So, again, paternity fraud. Do I think it should be a crime? Of course. Should it be more than a misdemeanor? Yes, but I guess you can't make it a felony. But my gosh, but you can make it a highest misdemeanor because you hadn't really, offended anybody. But what if it takes a few years for you to figure this out? I wonder if there's a statute of limitation on it, which is probably is. But yeah, it should be a crime because one, I'm looking up a few stats. I'm just gonna go over these real quick. Ended like this. It says, when the question is asked, when you look it up on Google, and you ask what is the percentage of paternal fraud, it said anywhere from 9 to 35% of claims are fraudulent. So basically, about a third, anywhere from 10% to 30% of when women say that that's the dad, they lie. I feel that tests should be mandatory, regardless of if you're married or not, and especially if child support, cases or filings are made, because it's not fair. It's not fair because, like I said, a man should have to support. He should have the option if he want. Now, if he find out his wife or his girlfriend cheated on him and have a baby by somebody else, now if he want to stay, that's fine. But if he don't want to, he shouldn't have to. Once he find out that this baby ain't his, he shouldn't have to do anything for. He shouldn't be made to do anything for. He should be able to make his own decisions. And let the mother, let's see how much the mother loves her child. Let's just prove that the mother loves her child as much as she says she does, and go after the real dad and leave this dude alone. And like I say, it's good for the child to know, do the medical history, and it said too, like, let's see, if we go back to section 1, when it says that the child was conceived because of an act of rape. You don't think that women may lie about that? Because I've seen it. We've seen cases where young brothers in college losing scholarships and going to jail, or nearly going to jail, because a girl lied and said that they were assaulted by the guy when it never happened. They just said it because the boy got what they wanted, got out, ghosted her, as these youngins say, and so now her feelings are hurt. And she feels ashamed. Or her parents find out, especially if it's a, white girl, black dudes, whatever. Parents find out. And so they say, hey, this person did this to me. Matter of fact, it ain't even got to be black and white. You know what I'm saying? I know a story where a young lady sat there and lied and said a dude tried to do that to her just so they can get off of her misdeeds. I mean, seriously. Can't make this stuff up. So what if the female, you don't think they will? Like I said in the previous story, a woman will lie to the world to save face. They'll lie to people close to them, and that's fine. They think it's fine, and it'll be over. But then once the world gets involved, they're going to continue that lie. They'll continue that lie to the end of time. And it has been proven time and time again. So that's like, that kind of wears me on with that little subsection there. And like I said, if you're married, you can't get out of child support, but you can divorce the mother, but you can't get out of child support. And I think the issue is with that is the courts don't want to they're afraid they're going to take over financial responsibility for this child. Because there's going to be a lot of women who are going to say, I don't know who the dad is. Because they didn't want to tell you who the dad was in the first place. They're going to say, I don't know who the dad is, and then because they're going to try to maybe protect the guy. Maybe they got a child by a married man. Or like I said, a no-count dude that their mothers or their parents won't approve of. So they just rather sit there and, again, lie and say, I don't know who the father is. And the courts, I believe, the court does not want to even take that chance, because if the mother says that, then, and the mother gets on government assistance, the government gets nothing in return. Now, if the mother knows who the father is and say, yeah, I know who the father is, do a DNA test, find out who it is. Okay, now the courts can go after and attack that man. Go after that man and get his money, because for those of you who don't know, and a lot of y'all on child support, and so this is why you need to go down and try to get some of these laws changed and learn about the laws. We holler about reparations and things like that, which again, like I said in the previous video, I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for them to give it to us, but if they give it to us, I'll be the first one in line. But it all boils down to, we love to vote, and we like to say that our ancestors died for us to vote, which is a flat out lie, which is which I'm going to say is a misrepresentation of what the real intent was. If you go and vote, what you voting for? got a lot of brothers and sisters saying, hey, if y'all not gonna give reparations, we're not voting for it. Which I understand. That's good. That is a point. You know what I'm saying? That is a good reason. But you also got to go down and learn about these laws, because these laws are what make everything go around. You got people who actually go down to these ledges, like on January 7th or whatever days it is at Congress meets in your state. There are people who actually go down there and sit in and listen to what they're proposing for the next year, for the next cycle. But for some reason, we don't do that. We don't do that, but we'll vote for somebody and then get mad when things don't get passed. Well, you know, a lot of that stuff. Then when September come around and they post out, you know, they post it online saying like, hey, these are the laws that are going to, when July, August come around, they say, okay, September 1st, these are the laws. This is what goes into effect this year. And we'd be like, where'd that come from? It's because you wasn't researching. It's because you were too busy voting for Al Green and Joe Biden and people and Kamala, you know, Harris. It's because they smile and give you watermelon chicken biscuits and stuff like that. But you gotta know these laws. You got to get down there and know these laws so you can get them changed. And you know, that's what you vote for. You don't vote for people, you vote for what these people stand for. But again, like I said, I don't think the government want to even even want to get involved, because like I say, if they know who the father is, then they get kickbacks. They get like dollar for dollar for child support. Oh yeah, the courts. Oh yeah, yeah. They get dollar for dollar from the feds. If with child support, every dollar the child support is being paid, they get a dollar. So it's a racket, man. You gotta understand. That's why they fight so hard and treat us men so like dirt in the courtrooms, because they're trying to get that extra bread. That's just the reality of the situation. But anyway, that's all I got for this story, man. Like I say, shout out to Tennessee. I mean, it's a start. You can't get everything you want in one fell swoop, but it's a start. So that's good. So everybody should get on board with this, and hopefully Tennessee passes, then we can get other states to do the same. But tell me what you think. Leave your comments below, and then share it with the world. With that being said, I leave you in peace, and I'll see you on the other side.